Brought to a standstill, businesses and services around the world slowly come back online after one of the largest IT outages in history. Australians warned to be on high alert for scams linked to the crisis.
If someone has called you and is suggesting that they're going to help you, talk you through a reboot of your system, I would hang up the phone.
A 15-year-old boy arrested after a fatal stabbing in Sydney's inner west. The world's highest court rules Israel is illegally occupying Palestinian land and must withdraw. American journalist Evan Gershkovich sentenced to 16 years on spying charges in Russia. And US President Biden's campaign manager pours water on rumours he's considering stepping out of the presidential race. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Ruby Cornish. The cybersecurity firm behind a massive computer outage says it could take some time before everything returns to normal after a software update crashed computers across the globe. Yesterday, the unprecedented outage disrupted a number of industries around Australia and internationally, including banking, healthcare, media and travel. CrowdStrike, the company behind the outage, apologised for the chaos, saying a faulty software update prompted the crash. Airports are advising travellers to check the status of their flights as they work through the backlog of cancelled and delayed flights. The global incident raised questions about security, despite reassurances from officials that the issue was not caused by a security breach. Home Affairs Minister Claire O'Neill has just spoken on the outage. Let's go to Oliver Gordon in Canberra. Oliver, tell us what the Home Affairs Minister had to say.
Hi Ruby, so this was a meeting of the National Coordination Mechanism, bringing together critical industries, government representatives, and then also CrowdStrike, which is the tech company whose issue looks like it's been responsible for this global tech outage, which some experts are referring to as the biggest tech outage that the world has ever seen. We have seen the Home Affairs Minister Claire O'Neill just confirm once again that this was not a cybersecurity incident. It was an error in a software update. She confirmed that it was felt in major cities around the world, and she said that a lot of the really big problems that this global tech outage threw up for Australian people and businesses and organisations, a lot of those have been solved. She mentioned Woolies, that their stores are all back up and running. We know that Coles stores are also back up and running, but both of those major supermarket chains still having some issues with their digital checkout systems. The Home Affairs Minister Claire O'Neill mentioned airlines, saying that they're mostly back up and running, but still having some technical issues just with that communication side of thing. Obviously the digital component there, still having some teething issues. There was some advice for people today interacting with this global tech outage in their everyday lives. She said make extra time if you're travelling, and she also said to be nice to supermarket workers and any other service workers who might be dealing with digital systems that are not working today. Always a good message to remember, but particularly on a day like today where a point of sale system or something like that might be playing up. There was some questions on whether or not CrowdStrike should face some accountability. The Minister, for the moment, really not engaging with those questions, saying that the government and this national coordination mechanism really focused at the moment just on getting all of these systems back online. The Minister said the national coordination mechanism is likely to meet tomorrow. She contrasted the meeting that this group had last night, which sounded like it was characterised by quite a lot of stress and uncertainty, which you can understand in the midst of a global tech outage, saying that this morning's meeting, which is just wrapped up, was more about dealing with the niggles that remain. Really interestingly though, and this is something that all Australians should be looking out for today, Home Affairs Minister Claire O'Neill said some businesses and individuals are reporting getting called by people pretending to be CrowdStrike. CrowdStrike, of course, is this company whose tech appears to be responsible for this global tech outage. She's saying to be extra wary of anyone who is calling, saying that they're CrowdStrike. This is what she had to say on this issue.
What we are seeing some reporting of is attempts to conduct phishing through the incident that's just occurred. So if I can just explain what that means, what we are hearing is that some small businesses in particular, some individuals are receiving emails from people who are pretending to be CrowdStrike or who are pretending to be Microsoft and are indicating that you need to put in bank details to get access to a reboot, that you need to pay money, that you need to put your personal details in so that your systems can be brought back online. Could I ask all Australians to be really cautious?
Home Affairs Minister Claire O'Neil just with a message to Australians to be particularly cautious of scams following this unprecedented global tech outage.
Oliver Gordon at Parliament House, thank you for that update. And let's see what the latest situation is now in Sydney and in Brisbane. Tony Ibrahim is outside Sydney Airport and Sarah Richards is outside of Woolworths in Brisbane. G'day Tony, we'll start with you. How's it looking at the check-in counters?
Ruby, it's looking like a story of recovery here. Systems came back online this morning, and although more than a dozen domestic flights and some international flights were cancelled, that's a minority of flights that are scheduled to depart from here. Some flights have been delayed, but we're talking minutes and not hours. Now, I understand Jetstar was particularly impacted by the IT outage last night. If you take a look behind me, you'll see the computer kiosks are mostly back online. And although there is a queue, it's not particularly long for a Saturday at this time. Now, these are just the knock-on effects from the global IT outage that occurred at 3 p.m. yesterday. Airline computer systems, they couldn't count on them anymore, but some planes continue to come and depart. Additional staff were also called in to help travellers with the confusion. Travellers who are flying out today have been advised to confirm their departure times. Ruby?
Thanks, Tony. Let's go to Brisbane now, where reporter Sarah Richards has been among the shoppers. Sarah, what is the situation like at supermarkets today?
From issues following the global outage, Woolworths says that all the stores are open and trading today with cash and card, and that there's plenty of stock still on the shelves. They said that there is some of their checkouts are still being affected, and that there's also was some disruption to a small number of orders from last night. But Woolworths says the online system is operating as normal, and that thousands of deliveries are still expected to go to people today over the weekend. Likewise, Coles supermarket across Australia are also opened. Some registers there might also be affected. They've put on additional staff today to help with that. The Australian Banking Association says that there was no major outage to disruptions to payment systems, so shoppers can still get their groceries today, but the supermarkets are just asking if everyone could be patient.
Sounds like good news. Sarah Richards and Tony Ibrahim, thank you both. A teenage boy has been arrested following a fatal stabbing in Sydney's inner west. New South Wales crime reporter Leah Harris has the details.
Just after midnight last night, police and ambulance crews were called to this quiet suburban street in Concord in Sydney's inner west, where they arrived to find a man in his 30s laying in a driveway with multiple stab wounds. They tried to revive that man at the scene, but sadly he was pronounced dead and he is yet to be formally identified. Now, while police were on scene, they were approached by a 15-year-old boy and his mother, and they then arrested the 15-year-old boy. He's been taken to the local police station where he is being interviewed by detectives. Police have also seized a weapon at the scene, which they say is a knife. The superintendent on this case spoke a short time ago, warning against teenagers carrying knives in public.
This tragic incident serves as a timely reminder for young people who choose to carry knives on our streets. One day, in the spur of the moment, you may use that knife. One day, you may kill someone with that knife. And if that day comes, you will likely be facing a murder charge and jail time.
Forensic crews were here combing through this scene for evidence this morning, but this crime scene has since been wrapped up. That boy remains at the police station speaking with police, and in the meantime, police are appealing for anyone with information to come forward, and also for anyone who may have CCTV relevant to this investigation to please contact them.
The world's highest court has found Israel is illegally occupying Palestinian land and must withdraw. Israel's Prime Minister says the decision is false and that Jewish settlements in the territories are legal. Middle East correspondent Eric Twarchek reports.
The United Nations General Assembly asked the International Court of Justice, which is the UN's highest court, in 2022 to examine the legal consequences of Israel's ongoing occupation of the Palestinian territories. That means not that it would look at Israel's conduct in Gaza after the October the 7th Hamas attacks, but that it would look back from 1967 and Israel's practices and policies in East Jerusalem, the West Bank and Gaza during that time. The court has now found that Israel's occupation of those areas is illegal. The main reason for that is that the occupation has become a de facto annexation, the court said, and that goes against the very strong prohibition in international law against acquiring territory by force. It also said that Israel was effectively denying Palestinians their right to self-determination. In its judgment, the court also found that many Israeli practices and policies, including building settlements, transferring natural resources, transferring Jewish settlers into the areas where Palestinians had been displaced, applying different legal systems such as Israeli law in the settlements and military law for Palestinians, and numerous other things, were all breaches of various elements of international law. The court found that Israel must end its occupation, but because this is an advisory opinion, the court does not have the means to enforce it. It asked the UN General Assembly, and more particularly the Security Council, to work out how Israel's occupation of the Palestinian territories could be dismantled. Israel rejected the decision. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called it false. He said the Jewish people are not conquerors in their own land, and he said that the settlements are legal. Israel's Ministry of Foreign Affairs called the decision fundamentally wrong, saying it mixed politics and law. So there will be little immediate practical effect of this decision, but it could carry some significant political weight, because the International Court of Justice found there is an obligation upon UN member states to ensure that Israel complies with international law. Member states also can't recognise any elements of Israel's occupation as being legal and can't deal with Israel as the authority in those occupied areas. So there are some implications for states like Australia. And more importantly, at this particularly difficult time when there's conflict throughout the region, the ICJ asked member states to double their efforts to find a peaceful outcome to the Israel-Palestinian conflict. So while it won't change anything on the ground immediately, it is yet another high-level condemnation of Israel's conduct, this time not of its war in Gaza, but of its treatment of the Palestinians over the last 6 decades.
Eric Twarchek there. President Joe Biden has vowed to return to the campaign trail next week, despite growing pressure for him to step aside from the race for the White House. At least 36 Democratic congressional members have joined the call, and some of the party's biggest donors have reportedly halted their funding. Correspondent Catherine Diss has the details.
Well, the Joe Biden campaign says he's not going anywhere, that he's still very much in this race for the White House, but that hasn't stopped the defectors coming thick and fast. Now, at least 37 Democratic members of Congress across the House and the Senate have joined the chorus of calls for him to stand aside from his race for re-election for the White House. We're also seeing significant party donors step away, reportedly halting funding while he sits at the top of the ticket. We've heard from Silicon Valley billionaire Michael Moritz, who's called time on the president. He's urged him to choose between vanity and virtue. His Vice President Kamala Harris was today whisked into a crisis talks meeting with those donors, or some of those donors that we are aware of, and has tried to calm their nerves in this regard. She's apparently emerged from that meeting saying that he's still very much in this race. And that's certainly what we're hearing from the President, from isolation at his home in Delaware, where he's receiving treatment for COVID-19. The President has released a statement. The key message from that is that he plans to return to the campaign trail next week once he has recovered. He says the stakes are high, the choice is clear, together we will win. We've also heard from his campaign manager today, Jen O'Malley Dillon. She spoke to media a bit earlier. Let's take a listen.
Joe Biden is more committed than ever to beat Donald Trump. And we believe on this campaign, we are built for the close election that we are in, and we see the path forward. The president is the leader of our campaign and of the country, and he is clearly, in our impression and what we've built and in our engagement with voters, he is the best person to take on Donald Trump and prosecute that case.
There's also a new advert out today which has been pulled together by what appears to be a hastily cobbled together political action committee in the days after Joe Biden's disastrous debate performance. Now, a political action committee is a group that forms to raise money and spend money to either get candidates elected or to defeat them. And the message is pretty clear from this advert. It's delivered by young people. Let's take a listen to some of the ad.
President Biden, you saved democracy in 2020.
Now you have a chance to do it again.
It's time to pass the torch and let us choose a new nominee.
One who can bring new energy, new hope,
and make sure Donald Trump never gets near the White House again.
Our country's future is in your hands.
So please, be the leader we know you are. Pass the torch, Joe.
Pass the torch.
Pass the torch.
Pass the torch.
Pass the Torch is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Well, none of this is looking good for Joe Biden's campaign. The momentum here is certainly building. I'm sure that his campaign would have liked to have kept any of these jitters or questions over his political future in-house. But what started as a slow drip of defectors has become a steady stream. And it's frustrating. His party, they're growing impatient with Joe Biden as he tries to make what really is the biggest decision of his political career.
2 Australians have survived a helicopter crash in Bali after it became entangled with a kite while flying over the southern area of Uluwatu. Emergency crews say the helicopter crashed and fell to the ground between 2 rock faces within 4 minutes of taking off. Authorities found a kite string tangled around the rotor blades. 5 people were on board. 3 were taken to a local hospital with serious injuries. A Russian court has convicted the American journalist Evan Gershkovich of spying and sentenced him to 16 years jail after a closed trial. Gershkovich has been in custody since March last year when he was arrested and accused of spying on a tank factory for the CIA. The Wall Street Journal reporter and the US government have denied the allegation and have described his trial as a sham.
And of course, when it comes to Evan, when it comes to Paul Whelan in Russia, other Americans, we're working it quite literally every day, looking to see what we can do to get them home.
He has been taken into prison and convicted for the crime of committing journalism, for something that we care passionately about in this country. This is something the president will not rest until we get him home.
Today is International Chess Day, and players from around the world are hoping to set a new record for the most number of chess games played in 24 hours. To help them get over the line, events are happening across Australia, and reporter Monty Boville is at one of those events in Canberra. He's got a special guest with him. Monty, have you taken a king yet?
Look, Ruby, I'm not the best chess player, so I'm definitely not the person to be helping them beat this record today, but they are hoping to get more than 1 million games of chess registered across the world today. It's across 800 or so registered events, and some of them are happening right here in Australia, from Perth, Adelaide, Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, and right here in the centre of Canberra at the King O'Malley's pub. There are around 50 players of chess here today playing a number of games that will be contributing to this record attempt. I'm here with the organiser, Sean Press. Sean, you've been playing chess here in King O'Malley's pub for something like 30 years. Why is chess so important and how exciting is the game?
Chess is a fantastic game. It appeals to people of all ages. We've got players 6 years old here up to about 80 years old playing today. As you said, we've been running here in Canberra for 25 years. And it's part of the Canberra scene, I think, having both street chess and also anyone that went through school here in Canberra over the last 25 years. Probably at least 15,000 kids would have played in our chess competitions that we run at schools. And so it's a fantastic way of getting together, having a good time and exercising a bit of brain power.
And you meet here every Saturday. I guess it's just by chance fallen on the day that we're trying to beat this record or set this record. How great is it that we can see some Canberrans get behind this record attempt today?
Yeah, no, it's fantastic because, as you said, it's a worldwide thing. There's about 800 tournaments like this registered around the world, including a number here in Australia, plus online chess. And yeah, we're looking at calculating up to at least 1 million games of chess being played worldwide today to set a new benchmark for the most number of games of chess ever played, and it's really great that Canberra gets to be part of this.
Now, Ruby, I did tell you I'm not the best player of chess. I'm a bit confused with what I'm seeing here. Sean, you're going to tell me what should be my first move? How do we go about sort of starting the game here?
So the start of the game of chess, your goal is to get your pieces, your big pieces from the back of the board onto the board, further up the board, aiming at your opponent's king. So a great move to start with is the pawn in front of your king, two squares forward. Yep. So this guy, 2 squares forward.
Right.
Okay, because it lets your other pieces come out, and then, for example, your bishop can come to a nice square like this one.
Now that seems very confusing to me, but we might as well. So I press this to begin the game?
Yep, so if we push that button there, we start counting down. And when you've moved, you push your side.
Great.
And now it's my turn, and I will bring out one of my pieces, and early on, just get your pieces out. That's the secret to winning chess.
Very good tip. Ruby, leave it to us. We'll count this game towards the record attempt. If we meet the record attempt today, this will be my first world record, so it's great to be part of it. Hopefully I beat this game against you, Sean, but I'm not liking my chances. Thanks, Ruby.
Monty, a steep learning curve ahead, but I'm sure by the end of the day you'll have a new hobby. Thank you.
What's this one?
King.
Let's take a look at the day's sport now with Jared Coote.
In the AFL, Essendon has been upstaged by Adelaide, going down by 2 points at Docklands Stadium. The Crows led by 36 points late in the second quarter before the Bombers exploded in the second half with 7 straight goals. But Joseph Rochelle kicked the match winner in the final moments to secure a 17 goals, 13, 115 to 17, 11, 113 win for the Crows. The victory ended 4 straight losses for Adelaide against Essendon, while the defeat has dented the Bombers' hopes of a top 4 finish.
We've shown we don't give up, though. It's one area. We probably get criticised for falling just short too often. So we knew the white flag wouldn't come up, but there were periods there where they had momentum, the crowd got involved, and our guys just dug deep, fought our way back, and then the work we've done on the planning going into those scenarios came through, and so, yeah, incredibly proud.
The Canberra Raiders have held off a determined New Zealand Warriors side to claim a 20-18 victory in the nation's capital and keep their NRL finals hopes alive. Halfback Jamal Fogarty starred after 3 months out with a biceps injury, steering his side to their 7th victory, while second rower Hudson Young crossed for 2 tries. The Warriors scored 4 tries to 3 in the end, but they missed 3 conversions, including one to level the match in the final stages. That win lifts the Raiders up to 11th place on the competition ladder, 3 points outside the all-important top 8, while the Warriors remain in 12th position. Warriors coach Andrew Webster didn't want to blame any goal kicking from the match.
We'd love to be 100% on our goal kicking every week, but that's not going to, there's plenty of other things to put it down to, not goal kicking. I mean, yeah. There's lots of injuries and lots of things going on, but we're not going to, the goal kicking is not the thing that defined us tonight.
Irish golfer Shane Lowry has a 2-shot lead at the halfway point of the Open at Royal Troon in Scotland. Lowry fired 5 birdies, a bogey and a double bogey in the 2-under par round of 69 to sit at 7 under for the tournament. Overnight leader Dan Brown and Justin Rose sit in a tie for second. Jason Day is the best placed Australian after shooting a tournament best 3 under in the second round to sit 6 shots off the pace. Tadej Pogačar continued his dominance of this year's Tour de France as he won his 4th stage and substantially extended his overall lead. The Slovenian attacked in the Alps with 9 kilometres to go, making up almost 3 minutes to catch and pass stage leader Matteo Jorgensen of the United States. His yellow jersey rivals Jonas Vingegaard and Remco Evenepoel were unable to respond and ultimately lost 1 minute and 42 seconds to the Giro d'Italia winner. Pogačar's lead over defending champion Vingegaard now stands at an imposing 5 minutes and 3 seconds with just 2 stages remaining. Lando Norris has finished fastest in the second practice session at the Hungarian Grand Prix. The McLaren driver finished ahead of current championship leader Max Verstappen, while Ferrari's Carlos Sainz was 3rd quickest. Australian Daniel Ricciardo was 8th fastest around the track, while Oscar Piastri was back in 13th place.
Let's start with the satellite. There's clouds streaming over the southeast with some wet weather around that part of the country. There's a low pressure system in the area coupled with a cold front which is bringing rain and storms. It's clearer over central and northern parts thanks to this high in the west. Looking around the country now, in Queensland, sunny across the board with some possible morning fog and frost inland. A cooler day with below average temperatures for much of the state. In New South Wales and the ACT, some rain about the ranges, slopes and southern coast, dry and mostly sunny for northern parts and snowfall on the Alps. In Victoria, cloudy with scattered showers across the state. Showers will be isolated in the north and move south throughout the day. Strong and gusty winds in the southwest until the afternoon. Down in Tasmania, there are some showers over the north, partly cloudy elsewhere with some light winds. In South Australia, showers and possible hail across the southeast, some below average temperatures and gusty winds, but they're expected to ease this afternoon. In WA, showers southwest of Jurien Bay to Hopeton, some morning fog and frost about with higher than normal tides and hazardous surf along the south coast. And up north, partly cloudy in the top end, sunny elsewhere with cooler temperatures across the south. Looking ahead to tomorrow's forecast for the capitals, sunny in Brisbane and Sydney, a shower or 2 in Melbourne and Hobart, wet too in Adelaide and Perth, and sunny with clear skies in Darwin. And before we go, these eerie sounds aren't like the music you're used to hearing. The otherworldly symphony comes from the watery depths of ice-covered lakes. Scientists have discovered that movement or cracking of thin ice layers in lakes of central Chile produce sounds similar to music, creating this curious aquatic phenomenon. And that's the latest from ABC News. I'm Ruby Cornish. Thank you for your company. Stay with us.